Hi and welcome to Natural Aesthetics. Before I begin, I'd just like to say if you enjoy the video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to see more natural bodybuilding videos. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how I think that you should approach your training when you first go back into the gym environment, when the gyms open up after this lockdown ends, which unfortunately I think is going to be some time. But it makes sense to at least start thinking about it, start preparing a protocol. So this video is mostly aimed at people with very minimal equipment or no equipment, and that would usually train in a gym. However, if you already have a full home gym, then you can at least use some of the protocols I've laid out to further increase the effectiveness of your training. If you are like me, however, and only training with minimal equipment, then you can really expect to make some fantastic progress in the gym when you first get into that gym environment, because your body will be so sensitive to any stimulus that you present it. It's potentially going to be a period of time where you can make the best progress that you've made in a long time if you approach your training in the correct fashion. If you play your cards right, in 3 months' time after gym training, you could potentially be a hell of a lot further ahead than you've ever been before previously, because you've got that kind of rebound, that momentum, where your body is well rested from certain stimuluses that you would usually present it in the gym on a regular basis. Hasn't had that for some time, so you could maybe push a little bit further ahead, an extra few percent than where you were prior to the lockdown, and you can do that quite quickly. Okay, so we'll get into the training now. I'd start off by saying that full body 4 times a week would be what I would recommend. The reason for that is you want the frequency of training to be as high as possible. If you think about it logically, there are more stimulus and strength cycles with this style of training than if you were doing a conventional bodybuilding style split where you're only training one muscle group per day. It takes 6 weeks to do 6 sessions of chest training. With a full body approach 4 times a week, only takes 1 week to do 4 sessions, so a week and a half to do 6 sessions on the chest. And yes, the volume per session is lower, but over a period of a week, it adds up to more or less the same volume that you would do anyway with a bodybuilding split. But the bonus is that the frequency is much higher, so this can lead to faster strength gains. And that's what it's about. When you first get back into that gym, you want to get your strength back up to prior levels, and hopefully beyond that as fast as possible. So your best chance of doing that is with a high frequency approach. Just to clarify, when I say frequency, I'm talking about the number of sessions per week where you're training a given muscle, and volume is the amount of sets you're doing per session. So yes, when you're doing this style of training, the sets that you do per workout on each muscle will be lower, but over the period of a week, it adds up to more or less the same as a conventional bodybuilding split. So now I'm going to get into how I would organise the days. It's quite simple. Each day that you train, you start off the session with a different muscle group. The reason for that is you're going into the session with the most energy, the most mental focus, so it makes sense to rotate the muscles that you're starting off each day with. So day 1, Monday, I'll start off with chest. Day 2, back. Day 3, legs. Day 4, shoulders. So each day I have a chance to approach that body part with maximal strength, maximal energy. For me, I like to get the heavy training done midweek, so I'll be training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and then having Wednesday and Saturday as an abs, grip, calves and cardio session. The cardio will either be kettlebell circuits or treadmill. On the Wednesday session, it will more than likely be treadmill work. If it is kettlebell work, then I have to be careful with my exercise selection so I don't impinge upon Thursday's session. Then I have Sunday as an off day just to recover and rest. So now if we actually look at the exercise selection, which is very, very important, you'll notice that the main compound exercises, so the real drivers of strength gain, coincide with the days where I train that muscle group first. So for example, dumbbell incline is one of my favourite chest exercises. I'll be doing this more than likely with low reps. We trained on the day that I train chest first, so I have the most energy going into that exercise, and I can really improve strength over the next few weeks. For back, coincides with barbell bent row. Legs, barbell back squat. Shoulders, barbell overhead press. So the days that I start off that particular muscle group, I do the heaviest, hardest exercise on that day. And you can see here, when I train chest at the end of the workout, for example, on day 2, I do machine pec flight. So it's an isolation exercise. It's still difficult, still intense, but it's not going to be quite as important in terms of driving strength increases as dumbbell incline press, for example. Likewise with legs, when I train legs at the end of the workout, for example, day 4 on Friday, I do leg extensions. It's at the end of the workout. It doesn't require as much energy as, say, squats, which would be the first exercise of the Thursday session, because legs would be the first body part that I train. So by organising your training in this manner, you can create a very, very balanced protocol. So I'll talk briefly about the reps and sets for each exercise. The first exercise of each day, so the primary kind of strength building exercise, should be trained with low reps. I'd say around about 5. That's what I'll be utilising. A couple of working sets, 2 to 3 warm-up sets prior to that, and just make sure that you're increasing the weight that you lift each week. The other exercises really depend on whether it's an isolation or a compound. Generally, somewhere between 8 and 15 reps. I'd say that the further down the exercise order you go towards the end of a session, the more reps you really want to be doing, because you've just got less energy to lift really heavy loads, got less mental energy to focus on improving the amount of weight you're lifting each time. So just make sure your form's tight. You're going to get a good mind to muscle connection on those exercises, but the main focus for your strength development is that first exercise of each day, and that will really be like the catalyst effect for all the other exercises to increase anyway. So I'll just finish by saying something that's quite important, and that's not to start off too heavy. You want to allow yourself that momentum over a period of weeks to increase your strength and hopefully push yourself past the point of where you were before the lockdown. And if you start too heavy, you're going to hit the wall too soon. It's going to be very difficult to do that. So I use this as an example. Let's say your chest dumbbell incline press was 50k for 5 reps. That was kind of your max, where you were before lockdown. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't matter how many press-ups you've done in this time period. There's no way that you can maintain that strength without doing that exercise. I've spoken about this many times before. You have to remember that the physiological adaptations are specific to the stimulus that you present it. So let's say that unfortunately your strength has dropped down to about 40k for 5 reps. That's kind of your max. You feel like you couldn't really do sets of 6 or 7 on that weight. So what I would do, I would actually start around 35 kilos for 5 reps. Something that's not too testing, feels quite smooth, allows you to complete, 1 or 2 sets quite easily. These initially low starting weights will be quite good for greasing the groove, practicing the technique, developing that skill set again to be able to lift the heavier weights eventually. So, let's say you had 2.5 kilos each week from 35 to 50 kilos, that's about 7 weeks. 7 weeks, you're already up to where you were. Hopefully with enough momentum and energy to actually be able to push past that, on weeks maybe 7 to 10. It's more than possible to do as long as you eat enough to fuel the training and the recovery process in between each session. So I think that's pretty much it. Just make sure that you're recovering adequately on your off days. If you feel like you're doing a little bit too much on the Wednesday and Saturday, then just rein that in a bit. It's not that important. It's just something I'm going to be doing personally. Maybe try and do that for the first 4 weeks or so, and then take out one of those days and replace it with a rest day, once the weights start getting a little bit more taxing. So that pretty much sums up the video. Hope you found it useful. Some food for thought, for when the gyms finally do open. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be quite some time, as I mentioned. At least getting a program sorted and starting to think about training helps with your positivity. It's something to look forward to. I'm not exaggerating when I say that those first few weeks of getting back in the gym can be some of the most productive training weeks you've had in years if you approach it from the right angle. So I'll say again, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, please. Really helps out, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already to see more genuine, no bullshit natural bodybuilding videos. Stay strong.